Hi, and welcome to Knit All the Things. My name is Laurel. I'm also known as West Maven on Instagram, Ravelry, and here. If you're new, this is a space where I talk about all the things I'm knitting, all the things I want to knit, all things yarn, just all the things. And if you're returning, welcome back, Knitting Bestie. I can't wait to catch up with you. In this week's episode, we're going to be talking about my test knit for Rachel Illsley. It is the Hoarfrost sweater. The pattern will be coming out soon, and it is so beautiful. I can't wait for you to see my progress on it, as well as other projects that I have been working on. We are also going to talk about the latest issue of Laine magazine and some knitting plans. So grab your knitting, get cozy, and let's go. Okay, so let's talk about what I'm wearing. I am wearing the Monday sweater. This is a pattern by Petite Knit, and I knit it in Voolenvine yarns, Nouveau and mohair base in the colorway Krampus. I wore this sweater today for two reasons. One, I saw that in her latest update, she did have this colorway, and because it is seasonal, I thought I would at least wear it and share it with you. I love how this knit up. First of all, this is a raglan style construction knit top down, and this has a folded over collar and it has exaggerated ribbing for the cuffs and the hem. And this sweater, I actually did not change up my skeins. I didn't helical knit. It just was a really consistent overall dye. And I really like how this turned out. It is it's not like a Christmas looking sweater with the red and green traditionally. It definitely is more of like a sage green, and it does have some maroon and maybe even some golden flecks in it, but overall it is very toned down. But I really just loved this colorway, and it's one of those ones where I think it kind of matches my eye color, and so that's always a plus. But I just really love this sweater, and every time I put it on, I always think, oh, I should just live in this. It is so good. What else can I say? Oh, so I do think this would be beginner friendly-ish. As long as you've done short rows before or you're comfortable learning that, I would say go for it, because it does have some short rows in the back. But other than that, it's a very straightforward knit. And one thing I love about raglan construction, especially this pattern, is once you kind of memorize where your increases are going to be or how often they're going to happen, then you can just I like to place a stitch marker each time I do an increase on that stitch, and then you don't really have to keep track of it. You can just look at what you've knit previously when you go to pick it up and just continue on. And so that makes it, to me, very easy. And I believe that the combination of why can't I think of what it's called? I can't think today. The single ply of the Nouveau yarn and the mohair really just has a nice drape. And I remember loving knitting this sweater so much. I feel like it was a quick knit, and I really can't say more nice things. It's just so cozy and soft, and I really love it. And the yarn is beautiful, the pattern was nice, and I just can't really say enough. I can't recommend it more. So that was the Monday sweater by Petite Knit using Voolenvine yarns. Okay. So I have been working on so many things, and one of the things that I have been working on is my test knit for Rachel Illsley. This sweater will be called the Hoarfrost sweater or pullover. That part, I'm not 100% sure. I'm not sure. But here it is. I finished the color work on the body, and this is a top-down construction circular yoke. You have a couple of options with your collar. I chose because I wasn't sure how long I was gonna knit it for, if I wanted it taller or what I wanted to do with it. She recommends doing a folded over collar or neck line, but she also gives the option of just casting on the amount of stitches after the neckband and just starting the knit, which is what I did. And then I went back and decided, you know what, I want a singular regular ribbed neckband, and then I did a tubular bind off. So that's kind of what I decided to do there. And then the color work is just so amazing. I really love how her color work lays out. Like, she has these beautiful, like, more delicate, like, snowflake motif, and then they get kind of more dramatic, and then you have this beautiful, almost dramatic kind of bulb. I would say almost ornament-like, but not really, in the center, and then you go back down to the snowflakes or the frost. But I really like how she kind of places her color work. One, I feel, kind of unique thing that she does is she either does all over color work, or she does this where she has the color work continue on the body and the sleeves, which I think is stunning. And it was something that I actually hadn't done before that I remember, which is strange to me, but go with me on this journey. So I had never, I'm not sure. I can't say for sure, but I had never done a 2-color cast on in this way. So that was kind of like just something I hadn't done before for the underarm. And then I have done this in the past, but I do recommend it for this pattern, is the ladder back jacquard. Now, don't be scared by this because she does have tutorials. And basically what it does is it creates a little like mesh in the back of your knitting. And so instead of catching floats with your main color, you actually create an extra stitch, and then you kind of knit that stitch as you go. And then at the end, you knit 2 together. You knit the one that you created with one of the other ones. And that way you kind of resolve that extra stitch that you have going on. But it creates this nice little mesh. I feel like the color work lays a little bit flatter. You don't have to risk your color work peeking through it in bits, especially if you're doing high contrast like this. And I just think it's a really nice technique to learn. It's very easy. She has tutorials on YouTube, and they're also like linked inside of the pattern, so you don't have to search for them. Everything is very well written, and I really did like the layout of her pattern. I'm very excited to finish this. So far, I think I have maybe 2 more rounds, and then I start my ribbing for the body, and then I just have the sleeves. And of course the sleeves have some more color work on them. I would say my biggest struggle with color work, really, and even with the sweater behind me, which I did discuss on the last episode, this is the Fertigenzer. I just wanted something behind me today, and I decided I would put it float side out. So if you're interested in more about this, you can see the previous episode. But anyway, when I was doing this one with the all over color work in the sleeve, the one thing that I did struggle with a little bit is keeping the floats long enough in a small circumference. And one tip with that is to actually knit the garment inside out, if that makes sense. So rather than having you're still knitting it in the same direction, but if you turn it inside out, you'll be knitting kind of on the other side, and the fabric is in front of you, but it creates a longer float, a longer distance, and that kind of will keep your floats long enough. I don't anticipate this being an issue, and I'm sure I can use some ladder back jacquard to hold my floats and stuff, but that would be my only potential potential challenge for myself that I can see. Otherwise, I loved knitting this, and I'm very excited to wear it. I believe she's releasing it in January, so keep an eye out for that. But in the meantime, you can follow the hashtag for this sweater on Instagram, which I'll link below. And yeah, it's just so pretty, and I really think you'll want to knit this. It just looks like winter in a sweater to me. And I like the snowflake motif because it's not like necessarily associated with any sort of religion or anything like that. So I feel like it's a nice like celebratory winter sweater, if you will. So I used Magpie Fibers Swanky sock in the colorway Back to Black and Alloy. And then I held a Labian Amé mohair with it, with the contrast in the colorway Dire Wolf. And I felt like these were like made for each other. So that is my colors for this sweater. And I really can't say enough nice things. I really think the high contrast just looks so stunning. Some of her designs, she does do a more low contrast, but there's so much color work in this one, I think it would be just makes sense for it to be high contrast. So that is all I have to say about that one. The Hoarfrost sweater by Rachel Illsley. She's also known as Unwind Knitwear. So the other sweater that I have been working on, I don't know about you, but after I like handle mohair, and I'm wearing mohair, there's mohair everywhere today, I feel like it's always like stuck to my face. But anyway, okay, so I have been working on the White Mountain sweater. This is a pattern by Midori Hirose, and I am holding mohair double, and I'm using Knitting for Olive mohair, the colorway Licorice. And let's see, I started doing a marker for all of my increases. And when I had left this last time, I had made a pretty good progress. And I know it looks like I didn't do anything since the last time, but that is just simply not true. What happened was I felt very confident in what I read to be the instructions, but to be honest, I think I just glanced at them and made up my own thing in my head. Because what happened was I went to glance at it. I knew I had to do X amount of increases, and then they changed. And so when I went to read the pattern, when I thought I was done, which I don't remember if it was 6 or 8 or whatever it was, I had done that many repeats, and I thought, okay, well, let me glance at the pattern because I know this is ending soon and I'm going to start something different. And it had ended, like I was at the right amount, but unfortunately, my cadence for the increases was off. So I had read the instruction as row 1, 2, 3, 4, round 1, 2, 3, 4. And then for 5 and 6 or whatever it was, you repeat. I, in my head, said, oh, you repeat 1 through 4 again, X amount of times, but you really only repeated the increases for the rows 3 and 4. So it was a different rate of increase than I was using. So I had to rip back essentially what I had done and start over on the increases. So now I am at the next stage of increases that are at a different rate. So as you can see, the sleeve increases are now a little bit less often than the body increases. And I only mark one raglan to keep track. I don't do the rest of them because when I come to that round, I'll know, or I can easily look and see where I'm at. So, and she suggests using different colors for the body and for the sleeves just to keep track of when you reach that stitch marker, what you're doing as far as increases go, which I thought was very clever. I'm excited to get this done so I can wear it. This is a raglan shaped construction, and it has a pretty detail on the raglan, which I don't think you're gonna be able to see in the black, but it is a little pearl stitch down it. So it kind of gives just like a little bit of something to it. I don't know if it's gonna be super visible or not when I'm wearing it, but maybe, I don't know. Black is always really hard to show on camera because it just doesn't completely come across the same way. But I am excited to get this done. And I think once the body of the Hoarfrost sweater is done, I will probably spend more time doing this, depending upon how close I am to finishing it. If I'm close to finishing it before the end of the year, then I'll focus all my energy on that. If not, then I might just bounce between the two. But that has kind of been my progress on my White Mountains Light by Midori Hirose. So next, I feel like we're going quickly today, but that's okay. So one thing I wanted to share, I had cast on, I feel like this week actually, what's been happening is I've been not necessarily fully reading pattern. Like I think I've been just a little bit distracted. And so I cast on for this hat for my son, and the pattern is a bit of a mashup, which I will talk about in a second. But the first thing I did was I was going to kind of merge two 1x1 rib patterns that I've used in the past and decide on the crown once I got closer what I was going to do. So the Stockholm hat by Petite Knit and actually the Manhattan hat by Tori are essentially the same. Petite Knit only offers one size. Tori has different sizes. The gauge is different, but essentially they look the same. And I decided because of the gauge, I was going to do the Petite Knit version of this hat. And when I read the pattern, she had said that once you're done with the pattern and you're finishing, you can run a thread of elastic through the edge, and that will keep your hat's shape. And I thought, oh, I don't really want to do that. And I have made the morning walk hat, which is also a 1x1 rib with a different crown. And I remember doing something different. So I thought, let's do this. Let's cast on a morning walk hat, and then maybe I will switch out the crown to the Stockholm hat. So I cast on because the cast on number of stitches was the same. And so I cast that amount on and I was knitting it, and I'm using worsted weight yarn and the pattern is for a DK weight. And I was just thinking this is going to be too big for my son. And so I ripped it out and I cast on fewer stitches, which now I'm happy with the size and I think it will fit him just fine. Let's hope. But here's what I am doing different than the Stockholm hat. So the morning walk hat, which I think is very clever, has you cast on and knit brim area with a smaller needle than the rest of the hat. And this gives the hat a nice snug fit on your head. Even if it stretches out, you're gonna have a nice fit, and then it can be whatever it is on the rest of the hat. And so I'm hoping by using a smaller needle for the first 3 inches or so, which I'm using a US size 3, I hope that I won't need any sort of elastic to like keep the shape of the hat, if you will, because I just want to avoid that. And maybe that's silly, but that's just what I'm thinking. So I'm going to knit 3 inches on a smaller needle, then I'm going to switch to a larger needle, then I'm going to knit the rest of the hat, and then I'm going to decide which crown I'm going to pick. But I'm not going to make that decision right now. So that's why it's sort of like a few patterns in one. I am using, let's see, I am using Wensley Worsted by La Vienna May, and it's in the colorway Lush. And this particular yarn is 250 yards or 230 meters, and it's 50% Falkland Corriedale, 25% Falkland Merino, and 25% Wensleydale. And this is like such a beautiful yarn. It is definitely tonal. I would say slightly tonal. Like it definitely gives like a nice depth. Not like tonal in a like, oh gosh, you're gonna have like so much variation. You do have some, as you can see, but it's in a good way. Variation in a good way to me. It's going to give the hat a little bit of a like handmade feel, just having that little bit of variation to me. And it is such, like, Lush is such a good color name for it. It is like so lush and green, and I'm trying to like not panic that I made the right choice in the stitch count, because I do feel like it is on the small side, but this is not like stretched out. The other stitch count was so big. I thought, gosh, that hat looks like it would be kind of like slouchy on me, and what I'm trying to avoid is like too slouchy, but I'm hoping for a kid this will be fine. If not, I will just be ripping it out and starting over again. But I hope not. I'm gonna probably knit the 3 inches and then put it on barber cord and have him try it on just to make sure the like head circumference fit is fine and we like the way it looks. But I'm very excited to work on this. I always I like having a project that has ribbing in it. I don't want to do this forever. Like, I wouldn't want this to be my only project, but having one that I can pick up and do a little ribbing and then do something else, I really enjoy. And my other son, I'm making him a hat as well. And I was going to make the tied knots hat. I might do something similar for him and just put a pom-pom on it, because really his biggest request is just having a pom-pom and not so much what the hat looks like. So I'll make that call later when I start his, but I'm excited to work on this. And that's why it doesn't have much done, is just because I've now started it twice. But that's okay. It'll be fine. Okay, so I thought I would do a comparison on the Knitting for Olive newest yarn, the No Waste Wool, compared to their merino. And then I had accidentally grabbed a pure silk, but we can look at them all together. First of all, their black color is one of the most true black colors I have found. The bottom is the No Waste Wool, the top is the merino, and then I have a pure silk. So the bottom two are licorice, and this is coal. We're gonna set this one aside, but since I had grabbed it by accident, I thought I would share how like true to black. It's almost just like what fiber content do you want, because they're all pretty much the same. But we'll set this one aside. So I was curious because I just get curious. So their recycled wool is called No Waste Wool, and it is 50% recycled wool and then 50% extra fine traceable non-museled merino. And it has the OTEC standard 100 on it. And then the regular merino in their line is an extra fine merino traceable, and it's 100%. These are non-superwash, and they do have different yardages. So for 50 grams for the No Waste Wool, it is 225 meters. And for the merino standard, it is 250 meters. So 25 meters different. Visually, they color-wise look the same. However, the No Waste Wool, I would say, has a little bit looser twist and does appear to be a little bit fluffier, if you will, almost. Let me see if this will focus. Okay. So that's the No Waste. And then this is the merino. So the No Waste certainly has like a little bit visually, tiny bit more, or I guess less refined. Let's just put it that way. This one looks a little bit more refined. But I'm very curious to knit something with both. And I'm not exactly certain what that will be. I was originally, I had purchased this for a dot sweater by Knitting for Olive, and I may still do that. I was going to make a like scrap version of that sweater. I wasn't going to purchase any of the contrasting colors. I was only gonna have like a solid main color. I actually also thought it might be fun to switch it out for the no waste wool, because then that will be a more like not no waste wool, using all your scraps, that type of project. So I'm not sure exactly what I will do yet, but I really wanted to try it. I really love their yarn so much, and I really wanted to get my hands on some just to see the difference. I think that the merino is a little bit softer, but not by much. So I am interested. I just got it yesterday, or I would have probably done swatches with it just to like show the knitted difference. But even just visually, you can tell that it is a little different. It's just ever so slight. And I really think I'm really interested in knitting with it. Price wise, they are the same price. They are both €6.50. I don't know. I feel like I'm saying that wrong. I would say $6.50, but it's not dollars. €6.50. 50. I don't know. That's what it is. But yeah. So it's not a price difference at all. I think it's a more like what you would prefer sustainability wise or that. So I'm really curious to knit with it. I think it's going to be a really nice wool to knit with, and yeah, I can't wait to try it. So maybe by next episode I can swatch both of these and block it and show you kind of what what visually it looks like, how it looks different visually knitted. Okay, we're done with that. But I wanted to just share that because it was something I was like curious about, and I don't know if you ever get curious about stuff like that where it is the same brand, so I do have like kind of a similar expectation, but like what makes it special or different, I wasn't sure, and so I wanted to try it out, and hopefully I can swatch it up and kind of share that with you so you will also know. Okay, so knitting plans. I do want to finish my Hoarfrost sweater. I do want to really get going on my White Mountains Light. I definitely will want to cast on another sweater once I get going, but I'm not so sure what that will be. And I kind of have like a list of sweaters I really want to make next year, because this year just felt like it wasn't long enough to make all the sweaters. But one other thing that I have been doing a lot lately, and I will keep this brief, so if this is just not your thing, don't worry. It won't take up half of the podcast. But I have been participating in the 100 Days of Spindle Spinning that was started by Andrea Mowry of Drea Renee Knits. And it was just the like motivation I needed to continue down that learning journey. But I was feeling a little bit frustrated the other day, and mostly because while I was spinning, I felt like I was like really getting in a groove, and then one day I just felt like, gosh, I'm just struggling like making it look consistent, etc. So after I got done with that, I had looked up and saw, and I look this way because I normally have my one finished skein of handspun yarn sitting up over there. And I thought, you know what? I'm just so curious. I want to make something with this, and I can show you what I kind of want to make with it in a second. But I thought, is it going to even like look like yarn when I knit it? Like, what is this going to look like? So I decided, you know what? I'm going to swatch this because I'm just curious. I don't know. I'm zero point of reference what this is going to turn out to be. So it was a good call, and I'm going to tell you why. So I decided to swatch, and I'm really proud of this, not because I think it's like the most consistent or whatever, but I swear to you, when I finished swatching and I blocked it, I was like, wow, that looks like yarn. Like, I don't know what I thought it was going to look like or how I thought it was going to, like, it's a little rougher on the back, right? It's not perfect. That's fine. But I thought, wow, that actually isn't as bad as I imagined, right? So that kind of inspired me, one, to like just keep going. Like, it's a very soft yarn. This is just extra fine wool. I don't have like a fiber content for this particular thing. It was a bat that just said fine wool, but it is really, really, really soft. And I thought, you know what, this will be a really cute something. Not a colorwork something or not a whatever, but like an actual like creature, if you will. So I think what I'm gonna do, there is a pattern called the a little kindness monster. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. And it is by Rachel Carroll. And I thought it was so cute because I feel like either I can just make him plain and make him a hat out of the hand spun, or I can make him all from the hand spun with a different hat or whatever it is. But I just thought, you know what? It's a cute thing that I can have on my shelf that I can look at and say, wow, that was my first ever yarn that I made, and just be kind of proud of it in that way. And so that's kind of what I think I may do. And I like that it's just a creature of some kind and not necessarily one you can put your finger on. I think that kind of makes it fun. I always have loved like the ugly dolls that are just like little monsters that don't really have a shape, or it's not supposed to be necessarily anything in particular, but a cute ugly doll. But I thought that might be a fun use for this that I could remember, because I'm hoping that I will get good at this and I can go, oh wow, that wasn't the best yarn, but look, I still made something from it. So I don't know, I'm not sure. Let me know what you think. If you are a spinner and you did end up using your first skein of yarn, I'm super curious what you used it for. So please let me know in the comments below. Or if you have like a different suggestion, I'm super open to that. But I thought I should use it because I actually think seeing it knit up gave me some sort of encouragement that I think I was needing at the time. So I have been spinning on my e-spinner and my spindle. I still feel that my spindle spinning, I haven't plied anything, so I can't really say for sure, but I still feel it looks like okay. Like, I don't think it looks terrible. So we'll see how it turns out as yarn. And this was just, again, a random bat that, since I am like so inexperienced and I've never plied anything before, I thought, well, let's not make it easy on myself and do like a 2-ply. Let's try to chain ply because we're already here. So that's what I did. And you know, it looks like yarn and it knits like yarn. So we'll see. But that's all I've been kind of doing with this. And that was my thought process. I'm actually very afraid of leaving it anywhere low in my house because of my dog eating all of yarn and wool and everything. So he just has to stay away out of this room, or I have to keep it up. So that's a whole nother story for another day. But I think I will make that cute little kindness monster, and yeah, I'll share it with you next time. Okay, so that was spinning update, knitting update. Let's talk about this magazine. This is the Laine magazine Winter 2024, issue number 19. And I really, really, really loved some of the knits in this magazine. Also, I wanted to note that there is an article in here about a sheep shearer from Oregon, which is where I am from. And that kind of tickled me because this magazine is a Finnish magazine, and I just thought that was kind of a, like, wow, a nice little article from somewhere down the road from me, and from a publication that's so far away. So whatever the reason, that really tickled me, but I thought it was really interesting. It was an article about the shearing industry, sheep shearing industry. And there's, of course, like companies that come in, but there is a diminished number of independent sheep shearers. And so it was kind of talking about this particular guy's journey that wasn't born into the trade. A lot of people in that trade are many generations have been doing it in their family. And this particular guy went and just decided that's what he wanted to do, and after having worked on a lot of farms, decided he wanted to start shearing sheep. But it was a really interesting article, and it really tickled me that it was from somebody, or part of it was about somebody's journey that was from Oregon, and that always just somehow tickles me. I don't know. Maybe that happens to you. I feel like if you watch a show, or particularly like a reality show, and you see a contestant that's from wherever you're from, you instantly have some sort of like, oh, they're from where I'm from, like same hometown or whatever it is. It's like I don't know, some sort of similarity or familiarity with that person. So anyway, besides that, this particular magazine has 11 patterns. It has 4 pullovers, 2 vests, a cardigan, a shawl, a skirt, a hat, and socks. So you can knit so many things, an entire outfit, if you will, of knitwear. So we're going to talk about maybe 3 patterns in here. The first one is a pattern called Nightfall. It is by Maxim Cyr. I'm going to pick a different picture because this one's covering up a lot of the color work. But I felt like this was such a beautiful sweater. And I really, really, really am drawn to, I feel like Maxim Cyr has done this in a few of his patterns. Particularly this little arrow, this little like arrow piece of the color work is like 1x1 color work. So it almost creates a softer color when you are using the 2 colors in that section, because it's kind of like softening the lighter color and muting it more towards the sweater. And then you can see here where he used that same color, but used it like standalone, so it's popping a little bit more. I just think it's a really interesting technique. I've seen it in a few of his patterns, and I really, really enjoy that quite a bit. I also love that in this colorwork sweater, there's details at the cuff, there's details at the hem, and the way this is knit is rather long on this particular model, but I can also imagine it being a little bit more cropped. Same color work and everything, but like bringing up the body of it a little bit more. And I just think it's so nice. Maxim also does a chart on the sleeve and the body, just like my other colorwork sweater. And I really do like that look a lot. I think sometimes it can elongate the yoke without kind of, but with keeping like the silhouette of your body, rather than having a long yoke that kind of comes out and it doesn't really allow you to see that silhouette as much sometimes. So I think that was really, really pretty. The next one that caught my eye was the pattern on the front, actually. It is called, so the pattern on the front is called Kettle Cove. It is by Jennifer Brew. I thought it was really interesting colorwork vest. Again, it is knit from the bottom up, and it's almost knit in like an irregular chevron pattern. It's not quite a chevron pattern, and it definitely has like in the center, like across here, there is a little bit different kind of motif. And then they use an embroider stitch technique to create these columns down the front. And I think that is really cool. I could imagine this particular knit in like super retro colors. And in fact, I got really inspired when I saw it. And so one way that I like to look up color work palettes or get ideas for that is by actually going on Pinterest and then typing in like, what am I thinking? So in this particular one, I thought, you know, let's type in 3 color retro palette, because I was thinking like 70s vibes, like orange, cream, and like a green, or doing like a cream, a navy, and a poppy red, or, you know, the ideas are endless, but I really like to get palette ideas by using Pinterest. I think sometimes if you're like, it's hard sometimes to see a different palette from maybe what it's originally knit in. And I think sometimes by changing the colors, it can really change the entire look of the garment. You could go super high contrast, and that's gonna make all of the design look very different to like the original. Or you can go super low contrast and even use the colors similar to like the Nightfall sweater, and it would just look so different. Like you could use the mauve and the charcoal in the like color work section and then use the black or something. So I just think there is so many possibilities with this vest. I also thought it was really interesting because it's almost as if the like arm detail, like I believe you knit in the round on the body, then you split for the front and the back, and then I think you actually end up somehow picking up stitches, and that's what like closes the top. I'm not saying this clearly today, and I'm sorry, but it almost looks to me as if the ribbing is what's creating the, like when you do the ribbing on the neckline and on the armholes is what's kind of like finishing and actually joining the fabric together, if you will. And I thought that was a really interesting design, and also then creates a more open neckline than I think you would get if you had like straps, if you will, and then the ribbing. So I just thought it was an interesting shape of vest that was just a little bit different than we're all kind of used to seeing. There is a really fun colorwork hat in here, I thought, but the next one that I kind of wanted to highlight in the final one, which I really, really do like all of the sweaters in this issue, but I thought this was interesting. So the latest Pom Pom magazine also did this, where they included a skirt. The one thing I will mention that I read, either on Ravelry in the description of the pattern or maybe in this magazine, was that they're actually picturing the skirt sideways. So I think they had said that the slit was intended for the back. So they have it turned to the side, and so showing like a different way that you could wear it. But I do think it would look a little bit different shifting it. But knitted skirts, I guess, or the next vest. I'm joking. But I do think that they're starting to like pop up all over the place, and I really think that the details on this one would be very flattering to a lot of figures, and I would be interested to see this in person. And I really like, my brain doesn't always easily see things in a different way. So since I'm seeing it turn to the side, I'm like, oh, that's really cute. That's fine. But I can't visualize it if it was in the back. Like I can't figure out in my head. I'd almost have to like literally draw it, the lines, to see like what that would look like. I can't picture it. And unfortunately, I don't they only are showing it to the side. They are not showing it to the back. So I don't know what that looks like. But you could just knit it and wear it to the side like they did. So I thought that one was really cute, and I do think it would be very flattering on a lot of body types. And yeah, I don't personally wear skirts, so I don't see myself knitting this. But if I did wear skirts, of the two that I've seen, I really like the silhouette of this one, and I like how they use the thicker rib to kind of give it a little style. And this particular pattern is by Helga Issayer, and that is the same woman who also, I think, is affiliated or owns the Issayer or Issager yarn. So that is the latest issue of Laine magazine. Color work, cool accessories. There's also 2 sweaters I'll quickly show that are like soft silhouettes, mohair, cozy sweaters that are going to be like pretty much staples in your wardrobe. This one's a V-neck, and I really think a lot of the pieces in here are very, very wearable. But I particularly love this magazine because I love the photography in it, and I always my interest is always piqued by what recipe they've picked, and I feel like they choose a lot of patterns that oftentimes, if I'm not like right now wanting to knit it, in like a year I will. I don't know what it is. It's like sometimes there's just on that like forefront of some like different trends, and so I really liked a lot of the patterns in this particular one. But even sometimes I find if I'm like, oh, I don't know about that, like I'm not sure, like letting it marinate, I come back and I get excited about the various ones they have. But I could definitely see myself knitting the Nightfall for sure. So I would, if I were to knit it right now, I would, of course, change the main color from this lighter, like brown gray to a black. And I do like the color work colors they chose, but I think I would mix them up a little bit. Anyway, that's the Laine magazine, winter 2024. Okay, so things coming down the line. I have been very excited to just think again, as I was sharing about the spinning, like what I can actually make with this yarn that I'm making. Andrea Mowry recently released the Traveler Shawl, and she has done a lot of her patterns in handspun. And while I do like them, maybe I wouldn't necessarily use that yarn, or maybe I would like a bigger contrast with using like a commercial, just regular like black yarn or a non-variegated yarn. That's the word I was looking for. But with this Traveler Shawl, it is drawing me in. I really love how it shows off the handspun. It is probably one of my favorite ones that she has done using her hand spun, because I feel like it really lets the yarn sing, if you will. And so I'm really, really tempted to cast that on. I do think she put out something saying like, does anyone want to do a spin it to knit it thing, which is if you are a spinner, you can spin your yarn and then knit the item. If you're not a spinner, you could still just make the item. It doesn't matter. Join the knit along. So I think she had kind of teased that she might do that next year. And other than that, I'm going to try and finish the hat for my son, work on my colorwork sweater, and toy with ideas, because I had made my son a lion or a leon sweater by Petite Knit, and they have an adult version, and I just love the shoulder shaping on that one. He wears it quite a bit, and every time he wears it, I think, I want a sweater for me. So that might be on the needles next. I'm not sure. Every time there's a new pattern, it's hard because you see this like, ooh, new shiny object. I get distracted, and that's what I want to make. But Either way, I am really, really like have a new enthusiasm lately for knitting, and I really do want to make all the things and knit all the things. I don't know how much I will have time to actually do, but I really, really like am thinking I'm casting on some socks and having a shawl and all these different things. It's like exciting and fun and not feeling like a burden by any means at all. I just want all the things. I want to knit all the things. Okay. So thank you so much for being here with me and spending your time with me today. I hope you got some knitting or crocheting or whatever object you're working on, worked on a little bit. If you want to let me know what you are working on, I'm always so curious, so leave a comment below. Otherwise, I will see you guys in 2 weeks. If we're not yet knitting besties, please make sure to hit that subscribe button below. And if you could please, please, please hit that like button. It tells YouTube that fiber enthusiasts like yourself enjoy this type of content. Until 2 weeks from now, I will see you soon. Make some yarn magic.